Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here. Today I'm going to talk about 23 books that I want to read in 2023. I have a hefty list. My TBR is literally never ending, but I narrowed it down to 23 that I have high hopes to read in 2023. Will I read all of these? We'll see, but they're ones that I just definitely want to read. Let's just get into it. The first book is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I've heard so much about this book for so long. I need to read it for myself and form my own opinion. And I may or may not already be listening to it on audiobook right now. But it's about Bree and Archer, and Bree moves to this small town in Maine. Archer doesn't talk, and they both have like some traumatic past that I assume they bond over. The next book is The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin. I've had this for quite a while. I actually thrifted it. I don't know why I haven't read it, but it's basically just about happiness, ways to improve happiness in your life. And I think we could all benefit from reading a book like that. I definitely want to read this sometime this year. And then the next book, which I also own, is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. The cover of this, can we give her a moment? She's beautiful. I got it during the gold pages. I got it during the 50% off hardcover sale. Anyway, it just sounds like a really, I don't know, it just sounds really good. I'll give you like a little synopsis. So orphaned Mary Lennox is sent to live with her uncle at a remote mansion, and she's a lonely child until she stumbles upon the key to an overgrown secret garden that has been locked for 10 years. Like, that sounds so fun. So, very excited to read this. And the next book I have is A Little Life. I have heard so much about this book and that it's like so sad, but really good. I'm just very intrigued to read it for my own. Like a lot of people, it's like a 5-star read, very impactful, and that's what I look for in books. As far as I know, it's just about like a group of friends and how their like relationships progress, the different trauma they have in their life. I've just heard it's really sad. So we'll see how that one goes. Next, we have Postcards from Summer by Cynthia Plath, which that sounds so close to Sylvia Plath. Anyway, I saw this book over the summer at a bookstore that I was at in Michigan, and I wanted it, but it was like hardcover and it was expensive. But I love the cover. It's so cute. This just seems like a fun little, just a little fun read, you know? It's about a girl who goes to her late mother's majestic, is how it's described, her summer house in Mackinac Island. And I think she kind of like uncovers more about her mom's past, and then she meets some new people. And it just sounds like a fun, like summery read. Then we have Look Closer by David Ellis, a bookstagrammer that I follow. She just recommended this. It was like a good book to break up if you've been reading a lot of romance or something, but I've been looking for a good thriller. So I immediately added this one to my TBR. It's basically about a wealthy Chicago couple, and then in like a nearby mansion, a young socialite is found dead. And I guess like the couple's secrets start to come out. Maybe they're involved with that. I don't know. And won't know until I read it, but it sounds really interesting. Next, I haven't been saying the numbers. Number 7, Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. No, I'm not reading Caraval, the trilogy before this. I don't care if people say I need to. No, I don't. Because they're not like actually the same series, so I really think it's okay. So I've just heard so many good things about this. That's like, I can stop saying that, right? All these books, I want to read them because I've heard good things. I guess the main character, she like strikes a deal with this wicked prince because the love of her life is marrying someone else. She wants to stop the wedding, and then he wants 3 kisses in exchange, but then I guess he ends up wanting more from her than she bargained for. Number 8, we have Sweet Thing by Renee Carlino. I've read 2 of her other books. I read Swear on This Life and Before We Were Strangers, and I really like both of them. This one is a romance between a pianist and a guitarist set in New York City. Need I say more? That sounds so good. So that was literally all I needed to hear, and I was like, I'm in. I am in. Number 9, we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. I loved my last Emily Henry book, Book Lovers, so I need to read her next book. And this one is just a couple that broke up, but then they had like a trip planned with all their friends, so they make a pact to like pretend they're still together for the trip. So like it's like fake dating, which I love when books have fake dating, but I don't think it comes out till like April, I want to say. Number 10, we have Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. This one, the cover is really cool. Also, I've like recently started to hear more about it. I don't know if it's new or what, but it says it's a charming, witty, and compulsively readable exploration of friendship, reckoning, and hope, tracing a widow's unlikely connection with a giant Pacific octopus. Like, I definitely have never read anything like that, so I think this will be a refreshing read. Sometimes books can start to like run together. Sorry, someone just walked outside my window. Number 11, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Everybody has been talking about this book, about two friends that are making a video game together. That's about like gist of it that I've gotten, and I've just heard such good things. I want to read it for myself. This one, I've been wanting to read this book for so long. It's called Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. My mom read this and she was like, this is so good. So I added it to my TBR and then forgot about it. But I'm gonna read it this year, mark my words. Basically a man, he wakes up surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits, and his life is like no longer the life he remembers. It's described as a brilliantly plotted tale that is at once sweeping and intimate, mind-bendingly strange and profoundly human, a relentlessly surprising science fiction thriller about choices, paths not taken, and how far we'll go to claim the lives we dream of. Very intrigued, you know. Number 13, we have Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I've never read this author. I tried to read Anxious People. I don't know if it was just the timing that I read it. I just like couldn't get into it. The writing wasn't my favorite, but I've heard so many good things, and I want to read one of his books, and this one sounded fun. It says Beartown explores the hopes that bring a small community together, the secrets that tear it apart, and the courage it takes for an individual to go against the grain. In this story of a small forest town, Frederick Bachman has found the entire world. It just sounds good, and I would love to read it soon. This next one is called The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. I've been wanting to read this for so long. I saw it at a bookstore, and because the cover is very striking, I really like the cover. And then I read the description. I was like, that sounds really, really like impactful. And I added it to my TBR, and then forgot about it. But I recently heard a booktuber I watch, Uncarly. She was talking about it, and I think it was one of like her favorite books of the year or something. It's about the AIDS epidemic, which I've never read about, and I just think a really impactful read. I think that one is gonna be really good. And number 15, we have Circe, I don't know how to say it, by Madeline Miller. So the same author as The Song of Achilles, which I have read. It wasn't one of my favorite books ever, but it was good. Like, the writing is beautiful. This one it's Greek mythology. It's been on Book Talk for so long. Like, I've seen people talk about it for years, and so I need to read it. There's like, you know, you have that backlist of books that you're like, I need to read this at some point because everybody has read it. Then we have, this one's kind of cheating because it's 3 books, but we're grouping it with one, okay? Just go with it. The rest of the Magnolia Park series by Jessa Hastings. I read the first one recently, which is going to be part of another video, so I'm going to hold off on my thoughts. But I do want to read the rest of this series. They're like reading Gossip Girl. Everyone says that it's like high society London Gossip Girl, and it's so true. 17, we have M Train by Patti Smith. A little synopsis I found online was, M Train begins in the tiny Greenwich Village cafe where Smith goes every morning for black coffee, ruminates on the world as it is and the world as it was, and writes in her notebook. That's all I need to hear. Like, that's all I need to hear. I love that. I hear coffee, cafe, notebook, New York. I'm in. I don't need to hear anything else. Next, number 18, we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. I don't know. I am so excited to read this book. I need to read it soon, but I have so many books I need to read. It's so hard to figure out which one to read. But when I was little, I had like a fairy obsession. Like, I loved fairies and everything. My room was fairy themed. Like, my mom painted my walls. It was so cool. But anyway, it sounds like a very enchanting book. Basically, a professor, she goes to this northern village to study fairies and folklore, ends up discovering dark fae magic friendship, and love in this heartwarming and enchanting fantasy. It just sounds really fun. I don't know. Enchanting is just the best way I can describe the vibe I get when I read about this book. Next, number 19, we have The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I've been wanting to read this forever. I've read Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna and I really liked it. And this one, I believe it's set in like the 70s in Alaska, and that's what's really interesting. It sounds very sad and intense. Like it's not like as lighthearted as Firefly Lane. The description is, in this unforgettable portrait of human frailty and resilience, Kristen Hanna reveals the indomitable character of the modern American pioneer and the spirit of a vanishing Alaska. A place of incomparable beauty and danger, The Great Alone is a daring, beautiful, stay-up-all-night story about love and loss, the fight for survival, and the wildness that lives in both man and nature. It just sounds very interesting. Getting to the end. 20 is Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I've only read Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by this author, so I want to read another one. I think this one is like fantasy YA, so a little bit different, I would say, than Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Basically, the main girl, I think she like goes to some kind of boarding school, it seems, and then gets like a letter that she's wanted at home, which is, I guess her home is called Gallant, and so she goes back home, but like nobody is expecting her, and she finds out that her home has like a bunch of secrets, and she sets out to discover them. It's kind of the gist that I got. I don't know if that's accurate. I haven't read it, so how would I know? It won one of the Goodreads Choice Awards, I'm pretty sure. So next, 21. This is again kind of cheating because it's a series, but Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I need to read these. I already have them all on my Kindle. I need to read it. I've read Akhtar and Crescent City. I need to read Throne of Glass. I really like her books. I will try to read those this year. And 22, I have In My Dreams I Hold the Knife by Ashley Winstead. I've wanted to read this for a long time. It's dark academia, there's a friend group, and a murder. I mean, how many times can we do this plot, you know? But nevertheless, I'm intrigued. And lastly, number 23 is called The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. This is actually a recent book. Like, I haven't heard too much about it, but it had super good ratings on Goodreads. Basically everybody, I think it's like everybody in the world receives a box that tells them how long they're gonna live for. The little description, it says, as society comes together and pulls apart, everyone faces the same shocking choice. Do they wish to know how long they'll live? And if so, what will they do with that knowledge? And I just thought it sounded super interesting and different than anything I've read before. So those are 23 books that I want to read in 2023. Leave me a comment and you can tell me what book you're most looking forward to reading in 2023. Maybe a few books, whatever you're feeling. But watch out on my channel. Maybe, hopefully, you'll slowly start to see these in my reading wrap-ups throughout the year. Hope I actually do read all of these. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel for more. And I will see you in my next video.